It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. Give me a follow on social media at Randy Wang Radio and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. I was all set to have one of those wonky deep dive shows where we could talk about why it's so difficult to convert commercial buildings to housing, but we don't get to do that today. No, because the insanity is ratcheting up all over again as protesters shut down the 6th Street Bridge today for a couple of hours, and the LA City Council is taking this lawsuit that was filed against Karen Bass and the City of Los Angeles and the LA City Council and deciding to raise the temperature in the room even further. If you're not aware, yesterday, the federal government, this was instructed by U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley, sued the City of Los Angeles, the Mayor Karen Bass, and the entire LA City Council for their sanctuary city policies. Sanctuary city policies that, the way they are written, pretty much tell local electeds to and local employees to ignore federal law. And that has kept the immigration officials in the state of California, because we have a sanctuary state policy and we have local sanctuary city policies that were just codified into law in Los Angeles a few months ago that prevent ICE from going to the jails. And so we've seen what happens. And now, in the face of this lawsuit, Karen Bass is getting extra defiant because she thinks this helps her politically. The city council doing the same thing so their faces can get in the national press, and nobody wants to sit down and figure out a compromise. Nope. We're all acting like we're in the wrestling ring, and we're all going to get real crazy and raise the temperature and, I don't know, incite even more people to riot in the streets, because that worked out so well in June. Let's do it again in July. Let's start with Karen Bass's reaction to the federal government's lawsuit. Here is NBC4.
Also today, LA City leaders are addressing the lawsuit filed by the DOJ going after LA's sanctuary city policies. Mayor Bass now calling it, quote, an all-out assault on Los Angeles, end quote.
Yep, that's not lowering the temperature in the room. An all-out assault.
NBC4's Macy Jenkins joins us live in downtown L.A. with the mayor's message to the White House tonight. Macy.
Good afternoon, Colleen. Well, Mayor Bass says that she is in lockstep with the city council, calling this entire lawsuit baseless, and that she will continue to defend the rights of the immigrants who live here in Los Angeles and the sanctuary city policies.
So, by the way, I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to react to what's being heard. If you want to get on the phone right now, now's your opportunity before the lines jam up, because they will. The City of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and the City Council are being sued over their sanctuary city policies. Karen Bass says this is baseless. Other members of the City Council have called this lawsuit ridiculous, and they claim these sanctuary policies make us safer. What do you think? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Karen Bass and the LA City Council say this lawsuit is baseless, ridiculous, and sanctuary policies make us safer in the city of Los Angeles. You want to react to that? Get on the line right now. 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222.
I personally won't be intimidated by these tactics.
Mayor Karen Bass addressing the DOJ lawsuit filed Monday, naming herself, the city, and city council, claiming LA's sanctuary city policies are unconstitutional.
This is essentially an all-out assault against Los Angeles. The lawsuit is an attempt to overturn the will of the city, calling for a halt.
She was about to say the will of the people, but the people didn't vote on a sanctuary policy. This was enacted by the LA City Council. And yes, we've had Special Order 40 going back to the 70s. But if you remember, the City Council this year, they debated that we need to codify this. We need to have this as an official policy because even though we had Special Order 40, immigrants don't feel safe calling the police. And that's what we need this for. So they'll be the witnesses to crime.
It's a long-standing policy to protect immigrant Angelenos. We will defend our ordinance and continue to defend policies that reflect the long-standing values of our city.
The lawsuit claims the Sanctuary City Ordinance violates the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution.
And local laws cannot violate state law. I mean, I only took one civics class because that's all they would give me in my high school, but I know that.
The lawsuit claims the Sanctuary City Ordinance violates the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which invalidates any law that stands as an obstacle to the accomplishment and execution of the full purposes and objectives of Congress.
And part of the investigations that Congress wants to do with the city of L.A. and part of the allegations in the lawsuit is not only are the sanctuary policies standing in the way of the feds doing their job, but you can definitely make an argument, and it's worth an investigation. What exactly has the city council been funding with some of these immigrants' rights organizations that are ones that are showing up and throwing bottles at the federal officers? That's coming from our tax dollars. They fund organizations like Churla and their rapid response network that showed up at the original raid, which wasn't apparently even connected to an immigration thing, but was a whole other labor thing. And that's when you saw all the ruckus, and Mr. Huerta got arrested for interfering with an arrest, and then everyone got all crazy.
LA's Sanctuary City Ordinance prohibits federal agents from using city resources for immigration enforcement and prohibits city employees from sharing data with those agents. I spoke with U.S. Attorney Bill Asela yesterday, who pointed the finger at state and local officials for the widespread approach currently being used by federal agents during immigration enforcement.
People are being swept up because we have to cast a broader net. That's because of California's policies. If the mayor didn't like it, she should have changed the law when she was in Congress. She didn't do that.
Mayor Bass.
I mean, if you want to, make some kind of compromise, make some kind of middle ground argument, couldn't the local elected say, you know what? We want to protect the people that are here just to work, but we really should be talking to the feds when we have criminals? Because we're not doing that. I constantly have to point this out as an example because it was just so ridiculous. But up in San Francisco last year, Supervisor Matt Dorsey tried to file an ordinance that would amend their city's sanctuary city status. And the amendment would make it so there was an exception. If the San Francisco police arrested a drug dealer who was in the country illegally, and a lot of the fentanyl dealers in the Tenderloin come from Honduras, and right now, they get arrested, nothing happens to them because they claim they're a victim of human trafficking. He wanted to make an exception that if you arrest a Honduran drug dealer in the country illegally, you can turn them over to ICE. Not only did that version of the Board of Supervisors reject that, he was called a racist.
And prohibits city employees from sharing data with those agents. I spoke with U.S. Attorney Bill Asela yesterday, who pointed the finger at state and local officials for the widespread approach currently being used by federal agents during immigration enforcement.
People are being swept up because we have to cast a broader net. That's because of California's policies. If the mayor didn't like it, she should have changed the law when she was in Congress. She didn't do that.
And you know what? That is a very fair argument. No matter what you think about this, the party that claims to care so much about this issue, when they had control of all three houses in 2009 through 2011 and 2021 through 2023, they didn't do a damn thing about this. And you could claim that the federal government on both parties hasn't done a damn thing about this since 1986.
Mayor Bass firing back, citing her fight for comprehensive immigration reform during her 12 years as a U.S. representative.
What does that actually mean? Can they just say what the policy is?
I fought every year for comprehensive immigration reform and was very involved during family separation and authored my own legislation that unfortunately did not pass because of the Republican control of the Senate.
Ernesto Medrano is executive secretary of the LAOC Building Trades Council.
Due process does matter, and the Constitution does matter. No one should be assumed guilty just because they're brown and wearing a hard hat. This lawsuit is a political stunt disguised as public safety, but the real consequence is fear.
And remember now, this started talking about hardened criminals, drug dealers, gang members, and I'm just hard-pressed to see the lady who wasn't even 5 feet tall, the isolated street vendor who was selling fruit, as a dangerous criminal.
Now, that's an interesting argument to take, okay? Because, yeah, it kind of looks a little wild that that's the person that gets detained, but you also don't want ICE to go after the drug dealer and the gang member. I mean, we know what's going on in a place like, I don't know, MacArthur Park, where the gangs have complete control of the park. We can't have the feds go assist in that because we don't want to talk to the feds because some of those gang members might be in the country illegally. When you take the firmest stance possible on this, it's really hard for the people in the middle, the people that don't agree with the extreme stance on either side, to stay with you because you're sticking to your guns and you don't want to give up the criminals.
Bass calling the Trump administration's approach to L.A. a test case for an extremist presidential agenda.
What the federal government should do is stay in Washington and remove the troops and do not have ICE raids in our city. That's what the federal government should do. Next.
She was not in a good mood.
Bass says that the city attorneys are still reviewing the lawsuit, but she anticipates it's going to cost a great deal of resources to defend the city from both the suit and continued other inquiries from the Trump administration. Reporting live in downtown Los Angeles, Macy Jenkins, NBC4 News.
So that's Karen Bass's response. We'll get to the city council's response as they just held their own press conference earlier this afternoon as they need to grandstand and they want to get national coverage on this. But hey, I want to hear from you right now, the residents of the Los Angeles and Southern California area at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. The federal government is suing the city of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and the LA City Council over their sanctuary city policies. Karen Bass and the council say this lawsuit is baseless, ridiculous, and sanctuary policies make us safer. What do you think? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Get on the line right now before the phones jam up. Let's start with Les in Pasadena. Les, hello.
Yes, Randy. This morning I called my state senator, Democratic Senator John Harabedian, and I asked him 3 questions, which his assistant took down and will pass on to him. 1, if you don't want ICE agents in jails and prisons, and you don't want them out in the community, then where the hell do you want them? My second question, if illegal immigration is good for the black community, then more illegal immigration must be better, right? And my third question, if you don't want ICE agents wearing face masks, then I think that rule should apply to protesters. They should not wear face masks, especially the ones who are throwing bricks and Molotov cocktails. I will be waiting for Mr. Harabedian's answer.
I feel like you might be waiting for a while, but I'm glad you asked those questions. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. And I do hear the argument that, yeah, these officers are getting doxxed, which is true, where literally the nonprofits that are funded by the city of Los Angeles found the hotel where some of these agents were staying at and was ready to harass them there. And there have been death threats and there has been violence against these officers. But yeah, okay, let's have an even playing field. If you don't want them to wear masks, then it should once again be a crime to wear a mask in public. Thanks, Ferrer. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Michelle in Santa Clarita. Michelle, hello.
Good evening. Hey, I think Karen Bass, the City Council, the Board of Supervisors, our state legislature, and our governor ought to look or review the oath of office they took when they became representatives of our state, because the oath of office talks about them honoring the laws of the Constitution of the United States, not just the laws of California. And also our law enforcement officers take that same oath. They're putting our law enforcement officers in a very difficult situation. It's against their oath to not honor the laws that ICE is coming in here to protect. And it seems to me cooperation and finding a balance between ICE and our local law enforcement and our state officials would be way more beneficial for all of us in California, not just legal immigrants, not just illegal immigrants, not just citizens.
I think you make a really strong point. There should be cooperation. Yeah. There should be some kind of conversation and try to find some kind of middle ground, but all we're doing is grandstanding. So then you have situations like what happened last week where during an ICE raid, somebody called the LAPD saying someone was being kidnapped. So LAPD has to respond to that. And then they have to do crowd control. And then the activists claim, look, LAPD's working with ICE. How dare they? It's just insanity.
It is, and their oath of office demands that they cooperate with the government. And in cases of conflict of law, federal government law supersedes the state. So they really are in violation, in my opinion, and I think that they should be called to task on that.
Thank you so much for the call, Michelle. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Karen Bass, the LA City Council and the City of LA are being sued by the federal government over these sanctuary city policies. Karen Bass calls this lawsuit ridiculous and baseless and says the sanctuary policies make us safer. What do you think? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Dale in Culver City. Dale, hello.
Hey, Randy, good to be on the Bliss with you again. You know, I was telling your screener that my thing is, if Karen Bass and the council would just let ICE go into the prison and the county jails and take those guys out, we would have a lot more room to put regular criminals in there. It would cost less to keep those guys in there, and then the gangsters would be at home with their homies back in their country. Everybody's happy.
And that's the hardline stance that I think is where our electeds here in LA are going to lose a lot of people. Because when you finally put this question to a test, why don't you want immigration enforcement in the jails? That's a really hard stance to take. They can say, how dare they go after the farmers and the housekeepers and everything else. But why don't you want them to go after the criminals?
Yeah, if they went after the criminals, they wouldn't really have time to go after all the other people. They'd probably just let it go. Maybe not, but...
Well, it's definitely a theory worth testing. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Just a simple phone call. Call the director of ICE. Call Bill Assaley and says, hey, can we change this operation? How about we give you full access to LA County jails, full access to the prisons, and you get rid of the people that you're looking to get rid of. If you're looking for certain people that you've got a detainer for, we will cooperate with you, and then we can all move on with our lives. But nope, it's going to be all grandstanding all the time. Let's go to Shannon in Santa Monica. Shannon, hello.
Hi, Randy. My question for them is, what do they really expect to happen when they're violating federal law? I don't get it. I'm going on to law school, and I just don't understand what the rationale of violating federal law is.
I think you make a really strong point. I don't think they care about what the legal rationale is. They have an emotional rationale, and it doesn't matter if it makes sense or doesn't make sense. They think it's a popular position, and for many years, it has been a popular position in Los Angeles and California politics, but I don't know. Maybe the tide is turning on that, because if you put these theories to its full test, which we're seeing right now, I don't know if the public fully supports what the LA City Council and the City of LA is doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I can tell you this much. Since the raids, the traffic has been a lot lighter on the west side of town.
Very interesting. Thanks so much for the... Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for the call, Shannon. Appreciate it. Oh, boy, the phones are blowing up, but there's still a line open for you. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. The City of LA, Karen Bass, and the LA City Council are being sued by the federal government over their sanctuary city policy. Karen Bass calls that lawsuit ridiculous and baseless and says our sanctuary city policies make us safer. What say you? 800-222-KABC. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. The lines are blowing up. People want to react to this. Karen Bass calls the lawsuit against the city of LA, Karen Bass, and the LA City Council ridiculous and baseless. The federal government is suing the city of LA, Karen Bass, and the council for their sanctuary city policies. Karen Bass says these policies make us safer. If you're on hold, stay there. We're taking all your calls, all your opinions right after the break. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and you get the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. All right, the phone lines are blowing up if you want to react to the lawsuit filed by the federal government against the city of Los Angeles over sanctuary city policies, a lawsuit that Karen Bass calls ridiculous and baseless and says sanctuary cities protect us. Give us a call. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Everyone on hold, thank you so much for being on hold. We're going to get to everybody. Let's start with Lester in Sherman Oaks. Lester, hello.
Hey, how you doing? Appreciate you taking the call. Big fan of the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as far as, I don't have any take on Karen Bass's comment saying that sanctuary cities make the community safer. However, I do have a take on President Trump's approach to the whole immigration issue. I will just say one thing. We have law enforcement at the local and the county level for a reason. Customs and Border Patrol, ICE, they have no business inside Los Angeles. Their job is to work at the border and to control the flow of drugs in and out of this country, to prevent danger from coming into the country. I have no problem with the Trump administration deporting gang members, criminal gang members that are known in the state prison system or the county jail system. But when Tom Holman said we're going to flood the zones, to have ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, going into cities, raiding Home Depots, capturing people with no masks, or I should say with masks, no badge, not identifying themselves, taking people in at their give and take. It's just, I've never seen anything like it. And I think that the Trump administration is overstepping their authority. They're in over their head. And I think that's what all this legal back and forth is a consequence of everything that's going on right now. So, again, no problem with getting the criminals out, keeping the drugs out of our country. But I think from a practical standpoint, President Trump is going about this thing in a completely wrong way. And I think there's going to be later on down the line, we will see some backlash effect, some unintended consequences, perhaps, that we don't know what they are. But I suspect that a lot of these federal agents later on down the line in the new administration will be, once they're identified, they will be prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney General in the next administration, whoever that may be, and they'll be sent to prison. They will be sent to prison because I've never heard of any law that allows ICE or Customs and Border Patrol to be approaching elementary schools, middle schools, and Home Depots in the name of removing illegal immigrants from this country. It's unheard of, and it's just not a practical way of doing business.
I don't know if the officers themselves would get prosecuted for something like that. You'd have to go through every possible case and adjudicate them, and there is something called qualified immunity. I mean, you can disagree with the approach, but they have a right to enforce the law even in the city of Los Angeles. And the fact that we don't want them even going into the jails and dealing with the criminal element makes this a really tough situation for people in Los Angeles. But I appreciate you coming on with your opinion. Call us back anytime. 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Monica in Irvine. Monica, hello.
Hi, Randy. Thank you so much for taking my call. I have a reaction to Karen Bass saying that her sanctuary policies keep us safer. What does that even mean? I've seen nothing but chaos out of Los Angeles since the beginning of her term and before. And also, how how can the city council even enact a sanctuary city policy? I mean, that it involves obstructing justice and interfering with federal law. How can you implement a policy that's illegal? And they did that, and other cities did that. I don't understand. And where's safety with all the quote unquote peaceful protests? The anti-Israel ones from last year, letting people loot and raid the college campuses, and they were told, but Los Angeles LAPD were told to stand down, and it took a rather passive approach. It got to a point where there was total destruction of these campuses. So it's.
Oh, I think you're so right about that, Monica. People are so sick of the lawlessness, no matter what the cause is for, whether it was for ICE, whether it was for Gaza, whether it was for BLM, or just your regular Saturday street takeover. People see this videos of complete lawlessness and law enforcement not able to do anything because they're outnumbered or because they're told not to interfere. And I think that kind of situation people are completely sick of.
Oh yeah, and there's illegal voting taking place as well. Believe it or not, of all places, the OC registrar just got served a lawsuit from the federal government for potentially keeping non-citizen voters on the voter rolls. So that just came out in the papers as well. So I
did see that. Well, we'll see how that one goes. I think what's important here is that we get an answer to this question. It seemed fairly obvious to the audience what the answer to this question is. But when you pass a law locally that completely violates federal law, we need an adjudication here to show that you can't do that, and that these sanctuary policies are just giving people false hope and attracting more people here to all the generous services that we have that are bankrupting the state. Thank you so much for the call, Monica. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Clark in the San Gabriel Valley. Clark, hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing great.
You there? Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Oh, okay. Yes. We're referring to them as illegal aliens. The term illegal means you've broken the law. So regardless of what it is, if they are here illegally, they have broken the law. Now, if somebody takes a shot at you and misses you, does that mean they didn't break the law? No. It means they broke the law, and they're going to be prosecuted just the same. So it's time we face reality, put our big boy pants on, and state the fact that, yes, they are illegal. That's why we are going to remove them. And if
Thank you so much for the call, Clark. Appreciate it. You know, the way he said that, it reminded me of an old Simpsons where Sideshow Bob was talking about his latest arrest, and he said, "Attempted murder. Really? What is that?" Let's go to Joanne in Pasadena. Joanne, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
Hello? Yeah, I think the other lady talked about what I was going to say is they ought to tell Bass to say, tell us explicitly how it keeps us more safe. They never hold their feet to the fire. They never have to account for sweeping statements. She can't specify how Sanctuary City keeps us more safe because it doesn't.
Well, here's what they say, and they have said this for decades, going back to Daryl Gates and Special Order 40. We need sanctuary policies because we want the victims of crime to be able to feel safe in calling the police to be witnesses to crime. And they have said that for a very long time. And then it was really funny. Earlier this year, when Hugo Soto Martinez and Eunice Hernandez wrote the Sanctuary City Ordinance that is now in the Los Angeles City Charter, they said, well, we need to do this because people don't feel safe calling the police. So everything they've said for 40 years, they said really didn't work.
No, it doesn't. And they have an agenda, and it's more about their agenda than it is about caring what the citizens have to say. That's all I have to say, but they can't, those excuses they give, they don't really hold water. There's making us less safe because they're, go ahead.
Well, I think you're right. I think they have shown that argument doesn't really hold a lot of water. In fact, even with these policies, a lot of victims of crime aren't going to want to become witnesses because they're worried about retaliation, among other things. And these policies, the way they're written, specifically prevent ICE from going into the jails. If they've got a detainer for somebody and we know who they are and we know where they are, we won't let our police officers help in that operation. And that's the kind of hardline stance that I don't think a lot of people are buying anymore.
Right. What we need to say is it makes us unsafe. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your listening to me.
Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We'll take more of your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones and go to Joe in Anaheim. Joe, hello.
How's it going? Just found your
show. Doing great.
Man.
Glad to have you.
I just heard the guy a couple of callers ago talking about how they're going to prosecute the people. That guy's an idiot, man. They're doing what they should be. The immigration right now is horrible, and President Trump is doing what he should do. If Knucklehead wouldn't have allowed all them people coming in the last 4 years, it wouldn't be so extreme. You know, this has been going on forever. You know, the people coming in and all that, and they're taking care of it. And if local governments aren't going to help or do it, then of course the federal government has the power and the authority to do it. And as for Mayor Ass, that person, the fire, the homeless, and now this, if anyone is backing or believing in her, they should be checked out, man, because they're not right.
We're about 12 months away from the primary. Hopefully the voters remember the performance of Karen Bass on all of the issues that have affected us, because she's going to try to nationalize everything for the next 11 months, try to make everything about this fight because she thinks she's on the winning side of this, but I don't know if she is. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We get to the rest of your calls in a lightning round next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones. I appreciate you holding, everyone. Let's go to Ellen in San Diego. Ellen, hello.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. First off, I am so happy to hear that Karen Bass is getting sued. I think that Greasy Gavin and Bogus Bass shouldn't just get sued. They should be locked up for what they've done to California. It's an armpit here. They put new asphalt on roads that last maybe 3 months if we're lucky. They keep putting in apartment houses everywhere, but they're telling us there's no water. They're liars, they're cheats, and the poor guy that's upset about them getting in Home Depot, if they had managed the borders for the 4 years, they wouldn't have to go to Home Depot to get these people. They've been locked out of prisons to get these idiots out of here, and what is it going to take for the guy in Sherman Oaks to not care they go? Is somebody going to have to get hurt in his family before he wakes up? I really feel like they've cheated the elections for the last 20 years in this state, and Greasy Gavin can't even look in the camera because he knows. And if anybody believes them, it's just astonishing, because I don't think we're all stupid. I was in the film industry for 20 years. All the crews are total Trump supporters, and a few celebrities go out there and these people follow them off the cliff. I can't name one thing Bass, including the fires with no water. Give me a break. But they're going to build apartments. I called my congressman. I go, why aren't you building new reservoirs for the water if we have such a shortage? Well, that's a good point, he says. It's just disgusting.
There is so much incompetence up and down this state, and I'm sure you see it every day, even in San Diego, what used to be known as America's finest city. Thank you so much for the call, Ellen. Appreciate it. Let's go to Rick in Camarillo. Rick, hello.
Hey, I know I got to keep it quick. So 2 quick points. One, for your caller, that they should stick to the border. So I guess he's saying that if you get past the border, then you got a free pass and we're never going to go after you again. For the 60 years that I've been living in California, 60 years of living in California, they've been doing ICE sweeps on a regular basis throughout the state of California. This guy needs to get a clue. As far as the other part for the face masks, just for a quick reminder, a civics reminder, supremacy clause, the federal says specifically in the government code, I don't have it in front of me, but a federal agent cannot be prosecuted for violating a state law in the course of their duties. There's so many different states, laws, 50 different states plus territories. Federal agents can't memorize everything. As a result, if it's not a federal law and they break a state law, they can't be prosecuted. This is a show for the politicians to say, look what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the masks off them. Hey, you can't do it. You can't prosecute them. They're federal agents unless they're breaking a federal law or knowingly breaking a serious, all federal law. It's got to be a federal law. So I wanted to put that out for you.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much for the call, Rick. We're not going to have time to get to everybody because a lot of people are calling in about this, but Bill in La Cañada, take us home. Bill, go.
Hey, Randy, you mentioned these emotional responses by Bass. Apparently, she was a philosophy major. So was I. And I never met any philosophy major that talked the way Karen Bass does. Philosophy majors are taught to seek out facts and logic and put their emotions aside. And the first thing they look for is a contradiction. She doesn't see a contradiction between federal law and her little fantasy DEI world. So Big Daddy and the Constitution are coming down on her DEI fantasy world hard. And
yes, they are. Oh, Bill, we are out of time. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the calls. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.